久しぶりだな、麦わら。
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are here today with another Perona gameplay footage video. We are taking on one of the new OP07 leaders in Foxy. And so you can see here we lost the dice roll and we're put on the odd curve. So we are playing out Otama to open up the game, picking up the Hiyori. And then our opponent moves into their 2-Don turn, which they do not have to play. So on our 3-Don turn, I would imagine we're looking to do another search here. So it looks like we do, yes, have the Otama and You Can Be My Samurai in hand. So that's likely going to be our turn, where we are going to whiff on this Otama, unfortunately, but play You Can Be My Samurai to draw 2 cards here. And it looks like we picked up a Momo off of that, so we might play that down. Just poke 5 here at Foxy. And he's going to take that, trigger Ragnarok and Rampadon. And we drop down the Momo, just so that we can get a search off next turn. So on our opponent's 5-Don turn here, now that they've gone through the ramp, plays down the Porsche. Does Don -1 to look at the top 5 for our Foxy Pirates. And it looks like he's going to pick up the Manda here, which will allow him to trash the card if he plays it down to ramp a Don. And then he is playing down Bon Clay off of the Porsche effect to ramp another active Don, effectively offsetting the effect from the Porsche this turn. So now I'm not sure if he will use the Manda to ramp an additional Don, or if he will just swing big. It's kind of hard to see what he has in his hand, and admittedly I'm not overly familiar with the Foxy Pirates type. Him leaving the 2 open here makes me think that he is going to play the Manda just to ramp a Don here, but now he's just going 5 at the Otama, and then yeah, he does play the Manda to ramp the Don. And now we're moving here into our 5-Don turn. We're going to get rid of the Bon Clay. I do think that this is a bit of mis-sequencing here, where we should have tapped Momo to search prior to swinging with leader, because had we done that, we would have seen that we were going to pick up a second Ryuma, which means that we can play the one from hand and not feel like we need to save it for a bigger character, so to say. But now that just means that we've effectively just wasted our leader swing into Bon Clay when it could have gone at life, because we're going to end up playing the Ryuma anyway, playing the Hiyori first, just so that we're able to draw a card, which you can see we draw into another Hiyori. Now moving into our opponent's 8-Don turn, looking at his hand here, we can see he has the 9 Kaido in hand. He's just going 5 at Momo to clear the searcher. And then now that he's going 6 at lead, that tells me that he's going to play 7 for his Foxy. And we take that 6 and we get a Borsellino off life. So Foxy is a bit of an annoying character here, so I would imagine that we want to clear it. For those of you unfamiliar with what the Foxy character does, he has a static ability that allows him to, once per turn, ramp a Don. As well as on your opponent's turn, all of your characters are -1000 power. So with him on board, Ryuma is a 5000 character. So what we do here is use the Ice Age, play the Hiyori to play the Ryuma, and then we go 7 into Porsche, because we are not wanting to rest our Ryuma heading into his turn here. And the reason for this is we know our opponent's going into our 10-Don turn here. So we don't want to rest one Ryuma, just giving him the option to play Kaido to pop the active Ryuma and then swing into the rest of Ryuma just to clear our own board. So yeah, we do see him swinging 6 here, which we counter out of using the 2K because we don't want to take a 6 and a 10. And then he does play the Kaido along with what we were expecting. So we do take that going down to 2 life here. And now Kaido does present a ton of pressure here, but we're going to be able to clear it because we do have the Ice Age Gecko in hand. So we're going to be able to use Ice Age plus Gecko and then play the Ryuma off of Gecko unless we have another Ryuma in hand, in which case we'll play Hiyori just to be able to draw an additional card. So we do play the Ice Age to bring it down to 4. Then we play the Gecko, and we play the Ryuma and the Otama. The Otama will help us to get an additional card. And we get the You Can Be My Samurai. And then we pop the Kaido with Ryuma. And then I would say that we're in a pretty comfortable spot here with the 2 Ryumas and a Gecko on board, along with 2 life to our opponent's 3 life. And our opponent having used the Don -5 from Kaido, meaning he's only going up to 7 Don this turn. So he does open it off with a Porsche, which is probably as good of a play as he could have hoped for. So he's going to take a look at the top 5 and grab a Foxy Pirate and then play a 4-cost or lower character from his hand. He's looking at what he wants to grab here. I think if I remember correctly, he grabs the Porsche. Yes, he does grab the Porsche here. And we are fine with that. That will allow him to go wide on board if he chooses to do so. But the Don minus effect from having to play 2 Porsches plus your leader ability would really set him behind. He does play the Ito Mimizu off of the Porsche, which will allow him to ramp a Don. So that does negate the first effect of the Porsche. So we should effectively consider him being at 7 Don. If he plays the second Porsche, that would put him at 6. And then if he uses the leader ability, that would put him at 3 Don, unless he plays another card that would allow him to ramp off of the second Porsche. But he is playing the second Porsche here, so it looks like he is going to go pretty far behind on Don. He grabs the Pickles off of the Porsche here. And then he plays the Gina, which will allow him to ramp again, so that will put him at 4 Don, but Chopper also allows him to ramp here. So all in all, after the leader effect, the 2 Porsches, and the 3 ramps, he is going to be at 5 Don, going back into 7 the following turn, but he's going to be able to freeze our Ryuma and Perona with his leader ability, and has now established a full board. And then so we draw heading into our 10 Don turn, which this should be a pretty easy turn because we have the Moria in hand and he does not have any high costed characters for which we need to use the reduction. So given that we have a full board here, I imagine that we're just going to use the leader ability to rest one of the attackers. Then we're going to use You Can Be My Samurai to rest the Otamas before we play over them to draw 2 cards here. And now we know we still have 1 extra Don remaining, so I would imagine that we're just going to swing 7 with Ryuma and then 9 with Gecko. And then we're going to play over the 2 Otamas and the rested Ryuma. So we swing 7, he takes. We swing 9, he blocks with Chopper. And then we tap 8 to play the Gecko over one of the rested Otamas. And then we're just going to grab a Ryuma and an Otama, or a Hiyori and an Otama if we have a Ryuma in hand, just to draw another card. So yeah, we get rid of the rested Ryuma, and we do end up playing the Otama and the Hiyori rested, so we're looking at top 5, grabbing the 2K counter off of Otama, and then we will trash the Hiyori to play the Ryuma from hand to get rid of the Porsche, to draw an additional card. And so now we're sitting here with 2 Geckos and 2 Ryumas on board. However, we know now that we've swung with that Gecko, the Perona leader and the Gecko are likely just going to be tapped for the rest of the game due to Foxy's leader effect. But so that means that we're really going to want to try to protect the Ryuma here if at all possible, which should be fairly easy given the number of cards that we have in hand. And just the fact that he's only at 7 Don and doesn't have any real threats established, he would have to Don up to be able to swing into it with either Foxy or Porsche here, with Gina and Ito Mimizu, or whatever his name is, both being 0k bodies just there to help with the ramp. So he's really thinking through what to do. And like we mentioned, given all of the Dawn minusing last turn, he is now back again at 7 Dawn. So we aren't really fearing a Kaido or anything up to that point, and know that he's really just going to be subtracting on Dawn here moving forward, given that his leader ability just costs too much at -3. There's no real amount of ramp that he can play. See, yeah, he's playing the Foxy here, which will allow him to ramp a Dawn, and the Ito Mimizu will also allow him to ramp a Dawn, but he's still negging 1 for the turn with Foxy. So he's playing the 7, and he's swinging out 5/5, which we're going to counter out of. We want to stay at 2 life. And then, yeah, the Gecko and leader are tapped, but we're being able to untap here with both Ryumas and a Gecko. And so looking at our hand here, it looks like we have a Ryuma, a Borsalino, a Sabo blocker, 2 Ezo 2Ks, and then the 8-cost Sabo. Given that he doesn't really have any high-costed characters that we're too afraid of at this point outside of Foxy, I think we will really just swing out here, play Ryuma to get rid of Porsche, and then maybe play the Sabo blocker to protect the board. So one thing we have to keep in mind though is that because Foxy's on board, everything is -1, so these Ryumas are swinging base 5k into life, with him having 4 cards in hand and 2 life. We're just trying to poke cards out of hand because we know that we'll be able to untap with at least 1 Gecko in the following turn going for lethal. So that's really what we're trying to do this turn, is just set up for lethal on the following turn, because we're not really afraid, knowing that we're going to be able to clear the Porsche, that we're in any danger of dying here with still having 2 life and I think 4 or 5k counter in hand after we play the Sabo. Or before we play the Sabo, we'll have 5k counter in hand and be able to filter 2. So we're swinging 5ks, and then we do use the leader ability just to tap the 0 cost to see if he'll give us a card, swinging 0 into 0 with Otama after dining up 1. And then he does take the Gecko, so he's at 1 life now, us having a full board, having replaced the Otama with the Ryuma, and then we will play over one of the rested Ryumas with the Sabo. And Sabo here allowing us to draw 2 cards and pitch the dead 8-cost Sabo from hand, along with a Momo blocker. So we know that all of the cards in our hand remaining are live and will be able to help us protect this board so that we're able to untap and go for game. And now he's sitting here with 3 cards in hand and just 2 viable attacks in the leader and the Foxy. So there's no real out for our opponent at this point. So he's just going to concede. And we're going to show our hand, but that's going to be the game. Like, comment, and subscribe.